Good afternoon. This is Kevin Hefner, owner of Historic Autographs. Today we are going to go over the top 10 first basemen as I see it. This is a personal list. I did take into consideration all the things said on our videos, and I did try to incorporate them. I think most of them have been incorporated in one facet or the other. The only person we definitely kept off the list was this guy, Fred McGriff, because that's Justin's favorite first baseman, and I definitely wasn't putting him on. But we are going to start with the honorable mentions and the reasons why they're not in the top 10. We're going to start with the two 19th century players, Cap Anson and Dan Bruthers. Of all first basemen, Dan Bruthers had the highest career batting average, and Cap Anson was probably the first person with 3,000 hits and 2,000 RBIs. But since the records haven't been confirmed, we're just going to leave it at, we're going to leave those guys in the 19th century. Both Harmon Killebrew and Willie McCovey, fantastic, great ball players. But due to both of their batting averages being so low, McCovey was a 270 average, Killebrew's in the 250s, I think. We left them off. Although McCovey did have one of the all-time monster seasons in 1969. We're also going to leave off the shorter careers of guys like Hank Greenberg and Don Mattingly. I saw a lot of you comment that Mattingly should be on the top 10 list. I do like Mattingly. I do think he should be considered for the Hall of Fame. But I think because of his career being so short and his back, giving out on him, it's going to take a lot to get him in the Hall. But we're also going to leave him off this list. Now we're going to go to the top 10. I'm going to do them in reverse order. And give the reasons why. Some of them are quite obvious, and you'll see when we get to number 1. But we're going to start with number 10, Eddie Murray. Known as Steady Eddie, and that is why he deserves to be on this list. He won the Rookie of the Year in 1978, and although he only led the league one time in home runs and RBIs, it was during the strike-shortened season of 81, his nickname says it all. He had over 500 career home runs, and he hit 287. Absolutely phenomenal in an era where home runs weren't hit all that often. Number 9 is Bill Terry, New York Giants. Terry had a short career, only 14 years, but he was the last man to bat 400. He was just a great hitter. A lifetime 341 career average. And for first baseman, that's the highest career average in the live ball era. He averaged over 200 hits a year, and although he wasn't a power hitter, he consistently drove in 100 runs. Number 8 is Jim Thome, one of my personal favorites because the only time he ever led the league in home runs was as a Philadelphia Philly. Yes, I'm a Phillies fan. He hit 612 home runs for his career, and he batted 276. 612 home runs is the most by any first baseman. And this number is just so big. And in the absence of any steroid allegations against him in the steroid era, Big Jim deserves to be on this list. His numbers prove that out. He also happens to be probably the nicest guy on the list. Or him or number 7, Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt. They called him the Big Hurt, but everybody that knows Frank knows he's a big softie. He's just a great guy. Between 1991 and 1997, he absolutely dominated baseball. His numbers were ridiculous. Career totals of 521 home runs, a 301 average, 2 MVPs. It's hard not to have Frank on this list. Number 6 may be your first debatable first baseman. We went with Pete Rose. I went with Pete Rose. We chose Pete Rose because he played the most games of his career, his very long career at first base. So what I'm doing is saying if all his numbers were first base numbers, that's why he'd be 6th on the list. He's the all-time hit king, 2-time MVP, probably one of the most dedicated players to playing the game. I'm not going to say he's the nicest guy because, that's debatable. But, nobody played the game harder, except for maybe Ty Cobb, than Pete Rose. I always love the quote where Pete Rose said he walked through hell in a gasoline suit just to play this game. You got to have him on the list if you're counting him as a first baseman. He would be number 6. Number 5 would be George Sisler. A 340 career average. 2 times he hit over 400. His average hits per year were over 220. He dominated baseball in an era where batting averages were high, but he was always at the top of the list. George Sisler was a fantastic player and one of the first players drafted into the Hall of Fame, or elected into the Hall of Fame. So you have to have George on the list. Number 4 is Albert Pujols, and this isn't recency biased. He belongs at number 4. 600 home runs, over 2,000 RBIs. Just absolutely dominant in baseball for at least 12 years. His last few years have been soft, but we all know getting old sucks. But Albert has just been, he's been everything, and I think he's helped Mike Trout become Mike Trout. Albert is and will always be one of the best first basemen in the league. Not only that, he can field. Number 3, 2, and 1 should be blatantly obvious. Number 3 is Stan Musial, Stan the Man. He leads all first basemen all time in hits and runs scored. He is, and probably was the most steady ball player on this list, even though Steady Eddie, that's his nickname. Stan the Man just hit, and he was always looked up to by his teammates. He turned himself into a power hitter at 475 home runs. His batting average at 330 is, way up there on the list of all-timers. Stan is just great. Number 2 is my personal favorite, Jimmy Fox. I'm a diehard Jimmy Fox fan. But for all his great numbers, 325 average, 534 home runs, he doesn't compare to the number 1 guy on our list. Number 1 guy on our list, of course, is Lou Gehrig, who led all first basemen in RBI, slugging percentage, on-base percentage, and, well, he's freaking Lou Gehrig. And if anybody has anything to say about the numbers on the list, leave comments below. I always like to hear what other people think, because for as much as I think I'm right, I'm not always right. And look, check in next week for the list on the second baseman and left field. And we are going to pull the name for the winner. Karen Simpkins is going to be the winner. So we're doing the drawing now. We had a lot of people. Thank you to all of you out there. We had some. Carrie Sunvold, you did a lot for us. Thank you. We have Ricky Hedrick, Karen Simpkins, Jeremy Johnson, Jim Gonzalez. Thank you very much. We love seeing people with multiple entries, because that shows you care and you took the time to listen to the video. Thank you very much. But this week's winner is Karen Simpkins. Thank you.